Welcome to the Quintin Moore Podcast.
Hey, thanks so much for joining us on Quintin Moore Podcast. It means a lot that you would take time to listen or watch the podcast. We thought it would be good this month to feature a very popular sermon series from Bishop Quintin called The Gospel According to Chairs. We hope that you enjoy today's podcast.
For a number of years, I've often wondered, what does an authentic expression of the kingdom of God look like in the 21st century? What does an authentic expression of the church look like? What does it mean to be a follower of Christ in the 21st century? What I've come to realize is that if you have a mutated gospel, if you have a gospel that is slightly altered, it will take you down a trajectory that's not healthy. You understand what I mean by that? If we shoot off an Apollo rocket and we're only a half a bubble off, we'll miss the moon because, right? So it is important to have a pure gospel. It's important to know the message of Jesus Christ in its purest form so that we can hit the mark, right? And my concern at nearly 60 is that we have allowed the culture, we have allowed denominationalism, we have allowed political partisanship, we've allowed nationalism, we've allowed the empire to shape the message. Rather than allowing the message to shape us, we've allowed other voices to shape the message. And sometimes, if we're not careful, we're close, but no tomato. Okay? So I'm going to take and try to do that. Psalm 22, and I think they've got it up here. Psalm 22, you know the psalm because Jesus used it on the cross. Remember, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? You remember that? And most theologians would say that that was what was recorded, but that we know he would have been praying the entire psalm. My God, why hast thou forsaken me? Oh my God, I cry day and night, but you do not answer by night, but I find no rest. And you are the Holy One enthroned on the praises of Israel. Remember that verse? But look at verse 4. Here he is hanging on the cross, dying this death, and he says, in you our fathers trusted. They trusted and you delivered. Wow, that's good. If you trust something and they delivered, that's good news, right? He's hanging on the cross and he goes, why have you forsaken me? But I remember my fathers trusted in you. And you delivered them. One translation says you rescued them. They cried out and were rescued. In you they trusted and they were not put to shame. How many of you can ever be in one of those situations where you're being crucified, but you remember Grandpa Noah trusted in you? Am I making any sense yet? I think Father's Day is the day to remember that you might be going through something, but your dad trusted and his trust was not in vain. And that's Jesus. Jesus is hanging on the cross going, this feels bad, but oh, I remember that you are enthroned in the praises of your people. This feels like you have forsaken me, but I remember you are present where there is praise. And the only thing he can think to praise is the faith of his fathers. Am I making any sense? Right here in this psalm that is recited on the cross. Why have you forsaken me? But my dads trusted in you, and they were rescued, so I think I'll trust in you too. Am I making sense? Sometimes the only thing you can do is remember those that lived before you and go, Grandpa Noah, Grandpa Marion, and Dad. They trusted in you. I remember when they were going through bad times, but their faith was in the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. In Jesus. And I many times am strengthened because of the faith of my fathers. Are you here? And this psalm is just a great way of saying that. And then there's a verse in 1 Corinthians chapter 13, which is the great love chapter, right? Love never fails. Love does love. But you get right down to the 12th verse of that chapter, and it says, we know in part and we prophesy in part. How many of you know in part, prophesy in part? The longer I live, the more I realize I only have a small part. Sometimes I get myself in all kinds of trouble because I'm thinking, oh my God, I got to fix this. And God says, you are so small, it doesn't change much of anything whether you... Say it with me, I know in part. Say it again. I know in part. Say, I know a little. It's rather childish. I know in part, I prophesy in part, so whatever little part you think you know, I just want you to know it's just a part. It's not the whole thing. And people that get very certain about what they think they know make me very nervous. They make me very nervous when I know this. They make me very nervous because knowledge puffs up. Am I making any sense? I love Paul. He's talking about how love never fails. I know in part, I prophesy in part. But when this is revealed and we see him, then we shall be like him, right? So I'm just saying, all of my life, I realize I'm hoping that something burns up the tapes of previous years. Because I've learned more. I see more. And understand more. And then today, it's important that I note to you that I have grown just a little bit. Then John chapter 1, the gospel, and that's where I'm going to kind of spin off here. In the beginning, say in the beginning, before there ever was a beginning, when God was thinking about who he is, when God was in his own self-examination, when God was pondering his own existence and his own identity, not when he said light be, but before he said light be, in the beginning was the Word was with God, the Word was God, he was in the beginning, and all things that were made through him, and without him there was nothing made. Then when he was considering his identity, when he was going, this is who I am, when he was absorbed in his own internal examination, he said, oh, I know who I am. I'm the Word. Say the Word. God self-describes himself as the Word. He's not talking about this. There wasn't a printing press. There wasn't Google. There wasn't Kindle. There wasn't Gutenberg. Say, in the beginning, God self-discloses his identity to be the Word. Say, the Word. Now, we know that the Word is another way of saying Jesus, because Jesus is the Word, right? The second part of the Trinity. So in the beginning, God says to himself, I'm Jesus. I'm the Word. And everything that was made by the Word. Nothing was made that was not made except by the Word. Say the Word. Made everything. God self-describes himself as the Word. Say the Word. It's not a book. It's a person. Okay, verse 14. And the Word became, say flesh. Say with me, the Word got in creation. I mean, he didn't just get in creation. He took upon the flesh of Mary. He got in a womb of a woman that he had created by his own ability. He got in the womb of a woman, and her flesh and his deity got so tangled up that you've got Jesus. And so Jesus is born because of the seed of God in the womb of a woman, and now you've got creation and creator so tied together that you can't tell where one starts and the other begins. In other words, the Word became man, and the man is assumed into the Word, and now you got God and man all in the same piece of flesh. Man, he must love the flesh. Contrary to all your religious teaching that God hates the flesh, I wonder why he got in it then. I bet he fed it. Well, I know he did. He offered him fish after he was resurrected. The Word, say with me, the Word got in creation. The Word became flesh, and we beheld his glory. Are you reading the same book I'm reading? And we say his glory. In other words, it's glory when God and creation are united. When God and man are joined together inseparably, then that is glorious. One translation says, that's beautiful. When God gets in what he makes, it is beautiful. Say beautiful. Oh, if you don't believe me, I'll go get Manny, and I'll hold Manny up here. Manny is 6 weeks old, and God's in that baby, and that baby is beautiful, not because I'm looking at the features of his face, but because I know that 6 weeks ago he was speaking a language that I don't remember. He's God breathed. You do understand there's not one person in here that was not fearfully and wonderfully made. Every human being in this room was uniquely, fearfully, wonderfully crafted in the image and the likeness of God. That inside of us is the DNA, the design of a being who said, I am the Word. And in Jesus, we see God revealed, and it says he is full. Say full. Say full. If something's full, how full is it? I'm just asking, what does full mean? Does full mean that's full? Does full mean that is full? Is that full? Well, how about that? I think that's what I would call, oh my God, he's ruining the carpet. Well, your idea of full and my idea of full. Jesus is full, say overflowing, abundant, everlasting, too much, beyond measure. Say, God in the flesh is too much. It's not just what you can hold, it's more than you can hold. Say, full of grace. Now, if you're full of something, you can't be full of anything else. This is profoundly intelligent. I'm telling you, I got a PhD to say these things. Wow. Huh. I mean, if you're full of water, you can't say full. Say, wait, full of what? What? Unmerited favor, unconditional love, unearned embrace. I mean, God's disposition is grace. His temperament, boy, that's a big word today. His temperament is grace and truth. Jesus is full of grace and truth. Say it again. Jesus is overflowing with grace and truth.
Thanks again for listening to today's podcast. If you want to get the whole series of the Gospel According to Chairs, it's on sale now at quintinmoore.com. We hope you are enjoying all of the Quintin Moore podcasts. If you are listening to us from Apple Podcasts, we'd love for you to subscribe and give us a rating. If you're watching on YouTube, it'd mean the world to us if you would subscribe there and like the video. If you have any questions, visit quintinmoore.com. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Quintin Moore Podcast. You can connect with Quintin online at quintinmoore.com or on social media using @Bishop Quintin.
What is it? I'm just asking, what does full mean? Does full mean? Does full mean that's full? Full mean that's full? Does full mean?